It was a quiet Sunday morning when it all started. At least I thought it would be. I was just trying to enjoy a little peace, but then I heard that voice. Get your ghetto ass and that piece of car off my street before I have you arrested for trespassing. Bethany Whitmore was standing in front of me, her finger pointed directly at my Honda Civic, parked in my own damn driveway. You know, it wasn't the first time she'd caused a scene, but this time she wasn't just blowing hot air. Her phone was already up, dialing 911. Yes, officer. There's a suspicious Mexican man casing houses. He looks like a drug dealer. Now, I'm Marcus Rivera, and I've been a judge for 8 years. I've seen it all. Lies, manipulation, and crooked people trying to get away with everything. But nothing prepared me for this. There I was, standing in my own driveway, keys still warm in my hand, and watching Bethany, with her Botoxed face twisted in pure hate, as she called the cops on me. 2 patrol cars roared down the quiet street, sirens cutting through the morning air. Bethany thought she had me cornered, but she had no idea who she was messing with. You ever had a moment when you knew everything was about to change? That was it for me. You see, Bethany thought she could push around just another minority, but she was about to find out that I wasn't the guy she assumed I was. In 3 weeks, she'd be standing in my courtroom, and I'd be the one wearing the black robes. 6 months ago, I moved into Maplewood Estates with my daughter, Sophia. After a nasty divorce, it seemed like the fresh start we needed. A small colonial house, perfect for us. The smell of fresh paint, the sound of basketballs bouncing on driveways, kids laughing, everything about it seemed ideal. But what we didn't realize was that we'd moved right into the crosshairs of Bethany Whitmore. The first gift I got from the neighborhood? A yellow HOA violation notice for my Honda Civic. Apparently, slightly tinted windows qualified it as a commercial vehicle. Bethany wasn't just your average neighbor. She was the queen bee of this place, real estate agent, HOA board secretary, and administrator of the neighborhood Facebook group. Her house. It was a McMansion with fake columns and a fountain that never worked. And she'd been running this show for 7 years. I later found out she had a pattern. She targeted families who didn't look like her ideal neighbors. The Johnsons, a young black couple, lasted barely a year before they were forced to leave. The Garcas? 11 months. Frank Castellano, a retired cop who lived a few houses down, had been documenting her pattern for years. She didn't just make people's lives miserable. She broke them. And now, she was doing it to me. The police had come, and it wasn't just about the Honda Civic anymore. It was about everything she had done to everyone else. So, I decided right then and there, no more. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to give up. I was going to fight back. The next morning, Sophia looked out her window, her face filled with confusion. Dad, why is that lady installing security cameras pointed at our house? Sure enough, there she was, Bethany, directing 2 men as they mounted cameras on her porch. I wasn't going to back down. The war had officially begun. By 10 a.m., Phase 2 was underway. A city code enforcement officer showed up at my door with a complaint about my lawn. My perfectly manicured grass was somehow violating city code. I didn't buy it. This was Bethany's doing. And then came a next blow. Sophia came home from school, her eyes downcast. Emma Whitmore said we're probably drug dealers because we drive a Honda. Bethany's daughter had been spreading lies about us. It hit me harder than I thought it would. But here's where things got interesting. I'd spent years handling property disputes in my courtroom. I knew the game. Property surveys are public record, and I wasn't about to let Bethany run wild without a fight. I ordered a survey for every property on the block. 3 days later, the results came in, and I had the upper hand. Bethany's white picket fence was sitting 18 inches on my property. That was strike 1. I didn't confront her right away. No, I had a plan. I filed a formal complaint with the state real estate board for her discriminatory Facebook posts. I submitted a FOIA request for all the neighborhood complaints. And I called my civil rights attorney buddy. What I was building wasn't just a defense. It was a case that would bury her. That's when Frank, the retired cop, showed up with some golden intel. "She doesn't know you're a judge," he whispered. "She thinks you're unemployed because your car's always home during court hours." Perfect. I wasn't just a neighbor she was harassing. I was a judge, and I had the power to take her down. Bethany, of course, called an emergency HOA meeting. She stood there, in front of everyone, making up lies about me. But I wasn't worried. I knew the laws. I had my recorder on, and I let her hang herself. Unauthorized parking of commercial vehicles. My Honda Civic. It was absurd, but I let her keep going. And then her plan started to unravel. Janet Morrison, a lawyer from down the street, called out the legality of her actions. You can't vote on bylaws without proper notice. The vote failed, and it was a public humiliation for Bethany. She wasn't used to losing. And then she escalated. She tried to get my car towed. The driver, Pete, looked confused as I showed him my registration papers. And when he told me it was the third bogus call he'd gotten from our street, that was all I needed. I called in the tow records, and then I made a few more calls. Pete told me Bethany was targeting minority families with fake complaints, and suddenly, everything came together. She thought she could destroy me, but I had her. I was a judge, and I knew how to build a case that would stick. And the final blow? Derek Whitmore, her husband, showed up at my door one morning, looking like a man who'd just found out his whole life was a lie. He admitted everything. How Bethany had been running a scam, stealing from the HOA, and forcing people out of their homes. But the most shocking part? He didn't know she was planning to hurt me. She was escalating, and now I had everything I needed to bring her down. I'll spare you the details of the next few days, but long story short, Bethany Whitmore went from neighborhood bully to federal defendant. And when the feds came for her, it was like the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. All the lies, all the harassment, it was over. The best part? She still had no idea who I really was until it was too late. She thought she could push me around, but I wasn't some helpless target. I was a judge, and I'd seen enough to know how to win. Now, a few months later, we had a new neighborhood, one that was no longer ruled by fear. My daughter, Sophia, was thriving. The Maplewood Justice Fund was born, and the neighborhood was stronger than ever. Bethany, on the other hand, was serving a 25-year federal sentence. Justice had been served, but more importantly, we'd built something new from the ashes of her hatred. So, I'll leave you with this. What would you do if someone like Bethany came into your life? How far would you go to stand up for your family? Share your story in the comments. Everyone has a Bethany, but it's time to fight back.